What's good, everybody? It's your brother Mad Black, the most dangerous and the most toxic black man on the internet, and I am black up in your face again with some more pro-black commentary. So, I'm going to be talking about your Colombian queens, guys. So, for all you passport bros and you manosphere buffoons, just be prepared, okay? And really, I know I can't stop you from doing this, but I already know you're going to do it anyway. I wish you wouldn't come here talking that, man, why you always policing where a black man puts his penis at? Why you dick policing? Or what is it? Man, you a grown man talking about where a man puts his penis? Man, that's gay. That's effeminate. Or whatever nonsense you childish buffoons come up with. I wish I could stop you from doing that, but I know you're going to do it already. So go ahead. Go ahead, right? And what's funny about that is if you had any type of logic, which I know a lot of you don't, you would have to admit that what you're doing, what you do 24/7 when you criticize black women or any type of women and their dating choices, that means you're pussy policing, right? Is that what it's called? I never heard that term before. You only hear the term dick policing when anyone criticizes you fools for your hedonistic type behavior. But we're going to talk about it anyway here right now. And the reason I'm talking about it is because I basically seen these memes floating around where they make comparisons between black women from the States and these women from either Colombia or some other part of South America or Central America, right? And they'll take like the worst examples they can find of black women, or to find black women who are out of shape or fat or just stank looking, and then they'll put some, over processed plastic surgery having Latina females in the other picture, and that's their comparison. So they're not even trying to be fair at all. They're just trying to be as ridiculous and hyperbolic as possible, right? So, and it's sad that this is the focus of black males. Like, this is what black males think is the most important thing for them to be doing when they're on social media, is not even getting the Latinas, right? So not even being with or dating or whatever the Latinas, is making the comparison between black women and whatever other race of woman that they want to worship at the time. Because it changes. It could be Latinas, it could be Asians, it could be white women, whatever. I even saw one where the same person that put up this meme put up a picture of these white porn stars and was basically saying that they were all good looking, saying that he was dumb enough to believe that what the meme said, that this is someone's, mother, auntie, daughter, and grandma. He believed that that was real, like they were all related. When in actuality, all these white females were just porn stars standing next to each other, right? So, when I see stuff like this, when I see black men making these extremely childish comparisons and not even being somewhat realistic and bigging up this type of nonsense, I have to call bullshit. And I have to call it out. Now, I know you don't like that. I know black men like to basically do stupid things and, do things that make no logical sense and not be called out on it. Like, they get offended by that. And I somewhat get it, because black men are always kind of trashed on, or they're always kind of like verbally attacked for kind of like no matter what we do. But when you're actually doing something dumb or something goofy, then I do have the right to call you out. As a fellow black man who wants to see black men rise, I have the right to call out buffoonery, right? So when I see stuff like this, I have to call out the childishness of it all. Because a lot of you who co-sign stuff like this, it almost makes me think that you've never been anywhere. Like this, when I see stuff like this, it makes me truly believe that the whole passport bros movement is something that only goes on within your head. You've never actually been outside the United States, because this is unrealistic. If this is what you think the actual comparison is between American black women and women from other parts of the world, then you just are extremely ignorant of the rest of the world. All South American women or women from Colombia don't look like this. And, it's always very interesting to me that even the ones that do, they probably wouldn't want to have anything to do with you, right? Because I've worked for a lot of companies from Latin America. The majority of the people I worked with were either Ecuadorian, but there were a couple of Colombians there as well. And I actually became very good friends with this one woman named, well, I don't know if I guess it doesn't matter because, this is a very common name, Gloria, right? Me and her became pretty good friends when I was working at this company in Miami. And she would always tell me, like, you need to come down to Colombia. You would like it. And I think what she was saying was, she was letting me know that it has a decent sized black population there in Colombia, right? But we got along good. We went to lunch together. It was professional. It wasn't like I was trying to hit on her or anything like that, and vice versa. But very nice lady, and getting to know her, and getting to meet her family and stuff like that when they came to visit the office. I'm not saying she was ugly, but she wasn't this over processed, photoshopped or plastic surgery having fake ass Kardashian looking Latina either. She just looks like a regular lady, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. If you find that attractive or you have a more realistic mindset about it, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But trying to make it seem as if all these women basically look like Instagram models, which is like I said, is ridiculous and kind of hypocritical because in America, you criticize these types of women, but you praise them when they're from another country. You see that? Like you put those types of women on a pedestal if they're from South America or Asia somewhere or Thailand or whatever, right? But those types of women here, you down them all the time. You talk about how they're gold diggers or how they're obsessed with their appearance and all this nonsense. But somehow it's okay over there. And what's funny is you guys barely even get those types of women. I see you guys with women that look like those tiki head statues or those Easter Island head statue type chicks, or they're bad built, or they got tattoos or whatever, or they're little short, frumpy, dumpty looking females from South America, little hairy women from South America. But then when that happens, then you make excuses and say, like, well, she's more feminine, or she believes in patriarchy, or, she believes in following her man, or whatever nonsense you guys come up with to make excuses for these types of women, right? So that's the interesting part of it, is the hypocrisy that is involved with your manosphere, red pill, passport bro philosophy. Now, I know that the basis of it is based in coonery and an inferiority self-hate complex. That's what the basis of it all is. I know that. And because a lot of the excuses and the rhetoric, it hasn't changed from when you Negroes were obsessing over white females, right? You guys use a lot of the same rhetoric. You think white women are somehow different from black American women, even though white women are the ones who created feminism and created all of this women's rights nonsense. You still put white women on a pedestal over black women and say black women have destroyed their community as if you had nothing to do with it whatsoever. You take no responsibility on yourselves as to what happened with the black community. Is all black women, right? And you'll look at women from these other communities, and once again, you'll put them on a pedestal and make it seem like they're 100% A plus perfect. And we'll just completely ignore a lot of the issues that go on in some of these countries, like Colombia, as if Colombia isn't one of the biggest places for drug cartels, right? You'll all of a sudden forget that a lot of these women have either worked for drug cartels or they've dated men in these drug cartels. You talk about black women liking Pookie. What about Maria dating Hector, who goes around with a submachine gun shooting people up or trafficking drugs between here and the United States, right? You'll talk about black women having kids out of wedlock, but Maria has just as many kids out of wedlock. Yeah. A lot of those women, a lot of you guys, like even the one dude that made this post, he was making excuses for these women, saying, like, well, they might have some baby mamas, but it's not as much as the black women in the United States. I was like, well, that has more to do with the fact that they'll still find men to marry them and play stepdaddy for them, right? So it's not that they don't have multiple children by multiple men. It's that they'll still wind up somehow getting married later on, even though they have kids outside the relationship. Or, Jorge and Hector don't know that Maria has been messing around with other guys, because that happens a lot too. I used to see that a lot when I lived in Miami. This wasn't necessarily all Colombians, but you had a lot of Cubans who did that very same thing, where they were in just as many ridiculous, ghetto, fabulous type relationships, but their men didn't know that, Hector and Jorge didn't know that that wasn't really his son, that's Rico Suave's son, right? So that happens, right? And not only that, but there are a lot of women down there who have children who they decide to keep after they were sexually assaulted at a young age. A great example of this is the actress Sofia Vergara. She told the story on TV one time about, her oldest son, and people were looking at her age, and kind of looking at how her son is an adult as well. And they were basically saying, like, you don't look that old. How do you have a son who's already an adult? And she basically has told how she had him at a very young age when she was a teenager because she was raped. So that happens a lot too, right? Where, these women, they just, based on religious practices, or just maybe not being able to afford it, or just not wanting to, they don't abort the children that are the results of these sexual assaults. So they just wind up raising them because, at the end of the day, that's not the child's fault, right? But they'll have children that are not necessarily part of the family that they have now. So it still goes on, okay? But once again, you have a lot of black males who are ignorant of that, who have either never been anywhere and they just believe all the nonsense that they see on social media. So they have a warped perception of the women down there. And when you have posts like this, they make you believe all the women down there are basically supermodels, which they are not, okay? Once again, I've worked for, and had women work under me that are from several different South American companies, and they don't all look like this. In fact, maybe 5% maybe that I knew worked with looked like this at all. And even those aren't the greatest ones anyway. There might be something going on with them, right? But these guys, they go gaga over anything with light skin and long hair. So to them, this is perfection, right? Just because she has long hair down to her back, doesn't matter if it's a weave or a wig or whatever, and doesn't have black skin, so it's all to the good, right? She doesn't have nappy hair like them, and they love that. So to them, this is what the epitome of beauty is. So they don't care how it looks, what's going on with it, how many kids she has. They'll make all the excuses in the world for her, but always damn and condemn black women over whatever they perceive to be a flaw. And Maria and Chun-Li can have the same flaws and they won't say anything about it. They'll just keep going along with it. So anyway, you folks let me know how you feel about this in the comments section. I'd very much like to hear your opinions on this. Anyway, Mad Black, and I will be back on my foot on the devil's back.